Let's first start out with some tomatoes. 4 to 6 are ideal. You can slice these any way you want, but I highly suggest you reserve a little bit of extra time and effort to cut all your ingredients into a fine, small chop. I mean, otherwise what's the point? You might as well just use a blender. Here's a different way to chop your tomato. First remove your core, then do thin slices. Stack them up and create little planks, and then chop it up. Nobody wants the core. You can also remove the seeds and inner flesh. First, quarter your tomato. You can use your knife to remove the inside, but I'll be using a spoon. If you do remove the inside, don't throw any of it away. Make a sauce, throw it on some eggs. Once you remove the inside, cut into thin slices and then chop. The added benefit is you get smaller pieces. I'm not gonna lie, there's something satisfying about chopping a tomato this fine. A finer chop will make it easier to eat. Nothing beats dipping in a tortilla chip into some fresh pico and ending up with a chip full of generous amount of all your ingredients. Once you finish with the tomatoes, it's time to chop the onion. You can use any onion, red, yellow, white, green. I personally like red onion, but if you're making salsa bandera, you'll want to stick with the green, white, and red theme. Now, Pico de Gallo has other names. We also call it salsa fresca, salsa bandera, and that's due to having the Mexican flag colors, the green, the red, and the white. My house, we used to call it picadillo, which is very weird because there are other dishes called picadillo, and we do not want to confuse that with this type of salsa. But I think we used to call it picadillo just because it used to be bits and pieces of tomato. That's my best guess. I've never really asked my family. But whatever onion you use, make sure to give it a fine chop. Okay, I couldn't help it. I'm gonna cut up some red onion. Let's chop some peppers. I'll be using serranos, but you can also use jalapeños for a milder spice. If you want it even less spicy, you can remove the inner membrane, the veins, and the seeds. If you're looking for extra flavor and extra spice, you could use habanero. Those are my favorite. Besides the serranos, I'll also be adding some peppers from my mom's garden. I don't eat that many. They are very spicy. Anytime I visit my mom in the San Francisco Bay Area, I always come back to LA with some fresh peppers from her garden. These peppers are super spicy, so I don't need that many. 1 or 2 is usually good enough. I gotta make sure that these peppers are finely chopped because the last thing I want is bite into one of these big chunks of peppers and my face will be on fire. If you have sensitive skin, you might consider wearing some gloves. The last thing you want to do is touch one of your eyes with this stuff because it's not going to be pleasant. Now it's time for the cilantro. In my opinion, the cilantro is not optional. It's mandatory here. But I understand there's some people that don't like cilantro. Now if you buy cilantro, it will usually go bad. But here's a good little tip. Put your leftover cilantro in a cup full of water. Put a little baggie over it. Put it in the fridge and it'll last a decent amount of time. Alright, so here's my mom's secret ingredient, and that's pickled jalapenos. Believe it or not, it'll add a little extra something. Anyone that tries my pico always gives me compliments. Let's throw in all our ingredients together. This is the more common salsa bandera. We're keeping the green, the white, and the red. I'm adding in the jalapenos and half a lime. Yep, I'm adding some pepper, completely optional. And we're adding some salt. Add in some of that pickled jalapeno juice and give it a quick stir. And that's it, fresh pico. On the second bowl, I got the red onion. This is not salsa bandera, as you can see with the red, or purple, or whatever color that is. Alright, tomato, cilantro, and add in our jalapenos. Half a lime. Same thing as before, let's add in our salt. Himalayan pink salt is what I'm using here. And some pepper. Again, let's add in some of the jalapeno juice. Give it a quick stir. And we're finished. Guacamole is very easy to make, but it starts with a good avocado and some fresh ingredients. Be sure to pick some good avocados. I like to hold them in my hand and give a very gentle squeeze. They have to give just a little. If it gives too much, you probably have to eat it right there at the supermarket. If it doesn't give in at all, you're better off waiting a few days before cutting. The ones I picked out here are perfect. Well, except for this one. It's a little damaged in the end, but I'll just scoop it out later. They can all be winners, I guess. But it looks like the rest of them were fine. Removing the pit should be easy if the avocado is ripe enough. If it doesn't pop out like this, I can usually just use my finger and it'll pop right off. Being really careful, slice them up with a knife and use a spoon to scoop it out. Let's slice out some green onion. Remove the ends and give it a quick chop. Guacamole isn't guacamole without the cilantro. We'll also be cutting up a lime. For the spice, we're using a serrano pepper. Be sure to chop the pepper nice and fine. For our guacamole, I'm adding some salt, dropping in some pepper, and giving it a good mash. Once you're satisfied with the consistency, let's add in our onion, our cilantro, our serrano peppers, and dropping in some lime juice. If you don't want your guacamole to turn dark too quickly, add more lime juice. I felt like it was missing a little bit of color here, so I dropped in some tomato. And there you have it, some freshly made guacamole, and you're ready to enjoy the game. If you like lemon pepper wings, then you'll love lemon lime pepper wings. These are very easy to make and very delicious. I'm using all flats today because yes, I am team flats, #flats. If you're a drumette type of person or even a whole wing person, leave me a comment and represent your team. I'll spread these out and add an all-purpose rub. I'll be dropping some pepper on it as well. I'll flip over and then season the other side. I'll give it a quick mix so they all get even coating. Oh, I'm calling an audible here and dropping in some paprika for a little color. Looks a little uneven, but again, I'll give it a quick mix so it evens out a bit. Normally after I season, I'll lay them in a rack like this, put it in the fridge uncovered overnight. So the seasoning gets into the meat and it dries out the skin. You'll get much crispier skin this way. But I'm cooking these right now, so there's no time for a dry brine. I'm cooking these wings on the Weber kettle, and I'll be using lump charcoal. I'll remove any big pieces of lump. I'll drop in my grate, and I'll spray the grates with oil. While it's coming up to temp, let's make our lemon lime pepper sauce. In a pan, I'll be dropping 2 sticks of butter and zesting a full lemon and 2 limes over the melted butter. You might also consider dropping in additional zest at the end for a little bit more pop. I'll also squeeze the lemon juice. Careful with the lemon as you squeeze it and make sure you catch any of the seeds. Then I'll squeeze in some lime juice. I'm going to be dropping an all-purpose rub. Yep, you guessed it. It's Incredible by Heavenly Made Products. Keep adding the seasoning until it's a nice mix of lemon, lime flavor, and salt. And what the heck, I'll be dropping in some additional pepper. Let's check our grill. Ooh, this thing got hot quick. It's time to place in our wings. Once I lay them in, I'll spray them with some oil and cover it up. Pro tip, if you're using a vortex, consider rotating the lid every 10 to 15 minutes. Time to check up on these wings. I'm going to flip them over to get more color on the bottom. Cover and check back later. Okay, these wings aren't as crispy as I would like them, but we're hungry and we need to eat. Once in the bowl, let's add in our lemon lime pepper sauce and give it a quick toss. These wings are fantastic. If you give it a try, please leave me a comment down below. Jalapeño poppers are a delicious appetizer that anyone could enjoy. Let's begin with the filling. Now for the filling, you will need some cream cheese. Dump it into a bowl, then add some shredded cheese. Now fresh grated cheese is always best, but save a bit of prep up time by buying pre-shredded cheese. Okay, so you won't get a good of a melt, but let's try to keep this one simple and quick. Next, add some of your favorite barbecue seasoning. Completely optional step here. I'm using a pork rub made by Oakland Dust. And then mix. Mix some more. And mix again. Once fully mixed, I'm going to put the majority of this into a separate bowl. The bit that's left, I'm going to mix in with some leftover chopped carne asada. Now you can use whatever barbecue meat you have left. Pulled pork, brisket are all great choices. Now for the popper prep. I have about 24 peppers here. Make sure they are fairly large and around the same size. This, I think, is a time-consuming part. Remember to use gloves and don't touch your face. Try to get a family member involved so this step goes a little bit faster. First, cut into a small triangle on top. Remove this small section, and then use a small spoon or the handle of the spoon to dig out the membrane and the seeds. You might want to give it a quick rinse in the sink to get rid of the seeds. Now to make it go a little faster, you don't have to remove all of the membrane and the seeds, but if you're feeding a crowd that doesn't like too much heat, you might want to take the extra time to be thorough during the cleaning. I've tried the other methods before, but now I'm a big fan of the pepper boat method that I learned over at T-Roy Cook's channel. I tried coring the middle, but I find it a little bit time consuming to remove all the seeds and membranes inside without that special coring tool. And the simple cut the pepper in half works great as well, and it's much faster, but I really don't like the way it presents. After trying out those two methods, I always land back to the pepper boat method. It just feels easier to remove all the seeds and the membranes inside, and it keeps for a great presentation. Let me show you again with the second pepper. And here we are. This is all the peppers cleaned up and ready for stuffing. And to avoid making a huge mess, I recommend use a small spoon to scoop the cheese filling and then place it inside the pepper. Don't overstuff. A little cheese leakage is unavoidable. I find that if you don't stuff it as much, there's less cheese leakage once the pepper cooks down and shrinks down a bit. These peppers are large enough, and my bacon is thin enough where I'm going to use 2 strips of bacon per pepper. And here they are all stuffed. I marked the ones with carne asada with a toothpick, and the ones without meat, I left them without toothpicks. Now some of these don't look pretty, but it's partially due to the bacon I was using, and I was trying to do these fairly quickly. Now some people like to use a pin or a toothpick to secure the bacon, but I find the bacon is sticky enough to remain intact. Using a toothpick will make them a bit neater, but it's also more time consuming. Let's get this grill started. I'm using the Weber 26-inch, so all the peppers fit comfortably, and there's a space between each pepper. I have a mix of leftover charcoal and some fresh charcoal I have on my SNS Insert XL that I'm going to go ahead and light up with my newly acquired grill gun. Now if you're in the market for a grill gun or this Weber 26-inch and you want to help support my channel, please check out my affiliate codes down in the description box. We appreciate it a lot. Now the charcoal is going to take a few minutes for it to be fully lit, so give it a good mix and then place in our grate. I'm gonna give the grate a spray with some oil to prevent any sticking. And I'm using the dripping griddle with foil to collect drippings because bacon's gonna release a ton of fat during the cook. Having bacon grease all over the bottom of the grill isn't the end of the world, but an easier cleanup is always best. And you'll thank yourself later. Let's place in all our peppers. The great thing about this 26-inch Weber is there's plenty of space. It's the first time I'm cooking peppers on this grill, but it's good to know I could fit about maybe 36 of this if I packed them in tightly. Next, I'm hitting them with some more barbecue pork rub seasoning for a little color and texture. Let's start our cook and cover these. The grill will hit about 500 on the hot side. It ran hot throughout. Now depending on the heat, these will take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Basically, it depends on your desired bacon crispiness level. Let's check on this about the 30-minute mark. Ooh, these smell amazing. And they look so good. But you know what? I'm not happy with the bacon crispy level yet. Now one issue you're going to run across is that the bacon at the bottom of the pepper is the last to get crispy. You can sometimes speed up the process by flipping them about halfway or by placing the peppers on the hot side. Be careful with this if you do. The bacon will flare up on you. But honestly, you just need a couple of seconds to help you crisp up the bottom. The kettle isn't running as hot, and that's probably another reason it's taking a bit longer than I expected. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close the lid, and I'm gonna let them roll for another 15 minutes. All right, these peppers are done. Now these were done about an hour. I lost a lot of heat towards the end, so it took a lot longer than expected, but we're ready to remove. And there we are. I can't wait to try the ones with carne asada. But even if you don't add any meat to the cheese filling, they are still very tasty.